Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. Despite all the rain, spring has sprung. I can tell you that. It's very green outside, and we've basically taken a 3-month hiatus from football. But the good news is that ends today. We're going to get back on it with Tom Dienhart, who remained busy during the winter months, and also check in with Brian Newber on the latest involving the Hoops transfer portal. But first, a thank you to our amazing Gold and Black sponsors. That list includes Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler up. East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street. The perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn. This Midwestern oasis is perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. And finally, Sand Valley Resort. Tee times for the 2025 golf season at Sand Valley are now available. Using their online booking platform, it's easier than ever to find availability and experience golf as it was meant to be. Conveniently located in the breathtaking dunes of central Wisconsin, Sand Valley offers a collection of award-winning courses designed by world-renowned architects that are suitable for all skill levels. Visit sandvalley.com and book your tee times today. Let's get right to it. Football on the brain, and very, very happy to see a familiar face. And I swear, Tom, we didn't mean to ignore you on the show or anything like that. And there were football happenings, right, during January and February and March, even though that is the off season. There's really no such thing as an off season anymore, but great to have you back here on Gold and Black Radio, and I know you've been a busy man.
Great to hear the dulcet tones of Derek Schultz once again. Yeah, I mean, I understand. My goodness, basketball, another great season. Like you said, though, Derek, there's always something going on, right? Especially in football with so many moving parts, and that certainly isn't the case. Not far from where I talked to you from, my friend. The winter conditioning, the portal. Of course, we're on here now talking because of spring football. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The end is looming here on Saturday with the showcase on April 12th. So they're getting down to the brass tacks here, so to speak, the last week. And still a lot of questions, I'm afraid to say, Derek, at this point as spring ball continues to steam toward its end.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Just kind of an overview. Among the new things in college sports, I'm not sure some of these teams either going away from spring games or turning spring games into showcases or whatever they're calling them causes even a blip on the radar. But are you still on board with this for Barry Odom's shift for this upcoming Saturday? Are you looking forward to what this could provide as opposed to the traditional spring game experience for all those years?
I think so. To call those games, I guess, in the past was being nice and being liberal. I get where these coaches are coming from. They've got concerns on a few levels. One of them, of course, is injury, right? And a lot of times, Derek, they don't have enough personnel to really have enough quality players to put on a spring game. And that was the case at Purdue a couple of years ago when they had backup quarterbacks playing in the secondary to help fill out some of the two deeps. That's part of it too. And I think Barry Odom still is mindful of wanting to go through certain down and distance situations, get enough guys reps. He's got a lot on his plate here, Derek, and he felt this was the way to go for him this year. There are still going to be some 11-on-11 action, so there will be some actual scrimmaging, but it's going to be, sprinkled with some other drill work and things of that nature that the team has been doing throughout the course of spring football.
Starting with the offense, by the time you guys are all listening to this, Purdue will have had a dozen spring practices under their belts, and we have yet to see a true QB1 emerge. Tom, I know that you think that player might not even be on the roster right now. How confident are you that they end up adding somebody different here later this month when the portal opens up again?
I'm very confident. I mean, I think they've got to, Derek. I think this is a DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1. I can't remember which one's the worst from War Game.
Yeah, I think it's 5, or I think it's okay. I'm going to look that up for you while you're giving the answer.
DEFCON 1, I think it's DEFCON 1. 1982 War Games, Matthew Broderick. I think it's DEFCON 1. I think none of the transfers that have come in, or I think have done enough to really, for me to feel confident in them being a starting Big Ten quarterback when Ball State gets here on August 30th. The best quarterback, Derek, has been the one holdover, Bennett Meredith. He's, of course, is the oldest quarterback. He's 21. He's played some football. He started the game a couple years ago for Purdue, came from Arizona State, from Hoover, Alabama. He's thrown the ball the best, shown the best poise, the best moxie, the best command, if you will, of the offense. But I think, having said all that, I still think they need to hit the portal and try to find them a legitimate starting quarterback for the 2025 season. Now, that's easier said than done. But I'm sure they're already, if I'm them, I'd be kicking tires, and I'm sure they're kicking tires already on some guys. And it's not going to be cheap, Derek. it's not going to be cheap to bring in a legitimate starting quarterback. But again, I think if Purdue really wants to try to get some oomph out of this 2025 season, they're going to have to get somebody with more experience and more skill sets as a passer, I think, to make this offense go, to try to wring any real positive things out of us, a program that's still in full rebuild mode.
I did see former Notre Dame quarterback Drew Pine just signed with somebody today, so Purdue's going to miss out on his 26th and 27th years of eligibility as a collegiate starter. Offensively, too, when you talk about some of the potential standout players, and you hate to see injuries happen this time of year, even to backup guys, but somebody as promising as tight end George Burheim, what can you tell us on that front for the young tight end for Purdue?
Tough. He's had injury issues since he's gotten here. Add this on top of it. Just a tough situation for, I think, Derek, what may be not just the most talented player on offense, but maybe the most talented player across the board on the entire team.
Wow.
This is a team that's desperate for playmakers. It's desperate for difference makers, and George certainly is all of that. And now he's out. Apparent right ankle injury. I believe he's had surgery. Will he be back by August? I can't tell you. We'll have to query Barry Odom about that here this week when we speak to him. So big blow happened early on Saturday during the scrimmage inside Mollenkopf. So it's just too bad. Again, I talk about playmakers, Derek. When you're getting ready to play somebody, you look at someone's depth chart and you circle those guys in red. We gotta watch this guy. We gotta watch that guy. This guy. I don't know if there's anybody on Purdue's offense like that right now with George out. Devin Mockabee certainly is good, but after that, still a lot of questions at wide receiver. If you were to back me into a corner and say which three would start, I think Chauncey Magwood from Central Florida, Denylon Morissette, who's the one holder, would start. I think Charles Ross, a USC transfer, would start. But again, there's not a lot of juice there at wideout. So I expect the staff to look for some wideouts in the portal. On the offensive line, I think they got 6 guys you feel good about. Joey Tanona being the Notre Dame offensive tackle. He looks very good. Bakeen Coley, the other tackle, probably your 2 anchors, I think. So there's a start there with the O-line, but I like a lot of spots on this team. I think they're going to have to go to the portal and that spot maybe get upwards of 5 to 6 guys if they can find quality Big Ten starting caliber players of that ilk to come here.
Where's the defense, Tom, in your opinion? Is it outpacing the offense with what you expected so far?
It is, but when you dominate an offense like this, I guess you really don't get a real sense of how that defense is, to be honest with you. I think from people I've talked to and from what I've seen with my eyes, I think there's maybe a little bit more meat on the bone over there, Derek. I think the D-line may be your strength right now, 5 to 7 guys. I think are legit up there. I think they are truly excited about C.J. Madden, Trey Smith off the edge. I think Jamarian Harkless inside as a tackle they like. And T.J. Lindsey, a redshirt freshman tackle from Auburn. I'm hearing raves about this kid. He wears number 13. Could be a special player. There's some depth there. Linebacker, a real concern. But they took one big step toward making that spot better. Last week or two, they got the transfer portal kid from Tennessee State, Sanders Ellis, a huge pickup for Purdue. So he helps with Manny Powell and Alex Sanford. In the back end, Derek, I think there's some nice players there too. But again, they're not really facing a blue chip passing game in practice. So it's hard to really get a good read on maybe how good Purdue is in the back end. Oh, it does appear they have some nice players. And maybe one of the bigger stories of the spring, Stu Smith, a kid from Cathedral High School who went to Holy Cross, transferred to Purdue as a walk-on, has really emerged as maybe one of the biggest stories of spring football for the Boilermakers.
And we know here in Indianapolis, Cathedral's been such a great football program. It's no surprise to hear that a Cathedral kid is a standout because they've produced a lot of those over the past couple of decades. I'm trying to limit, Tom, in our conversations, how much we bring up 2024 because I don't think anybody wants to hear about 2024, but we all know where this program was last year and the rebuilding job that Barry Odom has had to do here. Just with what you've seen so far from the spring, can this at least be a competent football team coming up this fall? Is there enough potential and growth in them to at least reach that level? Because before you even get to competitive, can you get to competent? Yeah. And I think that's where we want to see Purdue football go. But, kind of a walk before you can run type thing for this program.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of it, First of all, 1-11, that was not a 1-11 team last year. I think most of us can agree with that. I mean, just look at where these players landed who left. I mean, you're talking about some guys that went to some pretty primo destinations. SMU, Texas, USC, Oregon, Clemson, Ohio State, on and on it went. So the players they had were pretty good. So I think they can become competent just by having maybe a more of a experienced coaching staff, and I think a better overall message from the head coach too, and Barry Odom, a guy who's been a head coach, who has head coaching chops. Derek, you just sit there at post practice. The team's rallied around on one knee, the head coach, Barry Odom, and just listen to him talk. You can tell he's a leader. He's got a strong message, and I think he's respected quite a bit. I think he's feared, which I think you have to have a healthy fear and respect if you're a leader. And so, yeah, I think I'm optimistic that this team can be competent. Certainly never going to be the most talented team on most Saturdays, but that doesn't mean you can't be competent and competitive, right? And I think that the competitive will come with time. Like I said, we all know they're in rebuilding mode. And I think I said off the jump here, Derek, the transfer portal, we could see as many as 20 guys leave and 20 guys come in this spring. So this roster could get an influx of players who could be difference makers. That's the hope, of course, right? So we'll see, nope, I think we're going to see Purdue pick last again by everybody, right? When we get into August and July in those prognostications. But my gosh, just be competitive, be representative of the university, because there's too much of that lacking time and again last year. We all saw it, and it was painful to watch.
Well, we'll get a full recap of the spring showcase with you next week and also talk about the portal because we'll just be days away from that window opening up again here in the middle of the month. But always great to hear your voice, pal. And you can check out Tom's work, goldenblack.com. And for all of his deep dives when it comes to spring football and everything else recruiting-wise and such, head to goldenblack.com to check out Tom's work. Thanks so much, my man. We'll talk to you again next week.
Take care, Mr. Schultz.
That's our friend Tom Dienhart, and we appreciate him. And like I said, 3 months, that's too long to not get Tom on the show. So apologies. I just lost track of time, Brian Newbert and I are talking about parking garages in Hartford, Connecticut, and we should have made more time for Tom to come back on the show. We won't let that happen again, that's for sure. There'll be plenty of football coverage right here on Golden Black Radio throughout the rest of the spring and the offseason program as we'll keep getting Tom on and keep ramping up for the upcoming season. Before we get to Brian Newbert, wanted to thank another great sponsor of ours here at Golden Black Radio who has an event of their own coming up this Saturday. That's the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. Join us for the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research 5K Challenge, where every step supports vital cancer research at Purdue. Whether you race, fundraise, cheer, or donate, you're fueling groundbreaking discoveries at the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. Mark your calendars for this year's race experience on Saturday, April 12th. So that's this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. That's right, it's an evening race. Cross the finish line and stick around for food, fun, festivities, and more. Register now at PurdueChallenge.com.